Hello friends, this is Bilal Haider, and in this video part we are actually going to learn about another array method. And before I talk about what's its name and what's do, let me tell you that what I have done here. So I have created an array, and this is an array which contains objects. Okay, so it contains the users objects basically, and each object has a username and it has an age. Okay, so every single object has a username and it has an age. We have this data set for now. Okay, so this is the data set we are working with. So we have an array, and this array contains 3 users. Okay, and what we want to do basically, we want to find one user by its username. Okay, so we want to, let's say, find King. Okay, so let's say we have a very large data set, it has maybe 1000 users in it, and we want to find this user from that list. And we don't only want its username, but we want to return the whole object. Okay, so we want to perform an operation on this array, and what we want to do is, we want, if it finds the username, if it finds the user by its username, then we want it to return us the whole information about the user. So let's say we are running a large social network, and it has 1000 users, and every user has maybe um, 200 properties: username, age, email address, bank balance, what jobs they're doing, all that crazy stuff that a user might have. Okay, so what we are doing here, we want to find a user. So how can we do that? So there is a method which is called find. Okay, so the find is a method that works with arrays, and how we use it basically is that we just like other arrays method, we put our array and then put dot after it, then type find. And inside find, it does not accept a constant value, or an object, or string, but it accepts a function. Okay, so we can pass it a function like so, right? So we are passing it a function like this, and what this function will do, it basically iterate through all of the elements in that array, and every single element it will put inside whatever variable we'll write here. Okay, so it will start searching the user we want. It will go to the first item, it will put it in this variable, whatever name you will specify here. Okay, so if I call it user, if I call it item, if I call it p, if I can call it anything. Basically, it's just a username. So this find method, what it will do, it will start iterating through the elements. Okay, so it will come to first element, and it will put that element inside the item, then it will go to the next element, right, and it will put that element in the item, and so and so. So what we can do here basically is that we can create an if condition, and we can say that if item dot username equals King, okay, we want to return the item. Okay, so what it will do basically, it will come to the first element, and it will check if the username equals King. No, it will not do anything, because this if let me put the body, because you may get confused. So let me put the body here. So it's going to come to the first element. It will check if the username is king. It is not, so it will not do anything. Then the iterator will excuse me, then the iterator will move to the next element. It will check whether it is the username equals king. It's not, so it will move to the next element. And now the item's username equals king, which is true. So what it will do, it will return this whole item, right? The item is this at that point of iteration, right? So it will return this item. Okay, so where will it gets returned? So this item will be returned to this user here. So what we are doing here, this whole function, this whole thing is going to return an item if it matches this value. So what we can do, basically we can store that item in this variable, and then we can use it however we want. Okay, so as soon as it finds an item, it terminates at that same time. So if it finds the item on the first, at the first index, it's going to terminate. So if the king was here, then it has found the item, so it will return this item and it will terminate iteration, so it will not continue iterating. Okay, so that's how the find method works. So now if I console log a user, right, and if I run the code, you see that it correctly finds my user. So it's giving me the whole information about the user, it's not just giving me the username. So now I can do whatever I want with this user. So I can display its username on a page, its age on a page, whatever. Maybe it has some balance in its account, how many posts he made, maybe display all its posts. So the purpose of this video was basically to learn about how can we find an item from an array using the find method. Okay, so that's how it works basically. Now that we have this method here, we have created a method. Let's actually do one more thing, and let's create our own method, right, our own function, in which we can pass in a username, and it's going to return us the user. Okay, so we are not limited to just use these methods. We can create our own methods, our own functions, whenever we find a need of creating a function. So at this point, I think it will be a good idea to create a function and call it find user, right? And you know how can we create functions. If you watch my previous videos, we can do so by typing this parenthesis, then this arrow and the body. So inside that body, we can say that this function is going to take the username, right? So we can type a username, and it's going to loop through the users array, and we can cut this code and paste it inside here, and we can say that it's going to take a username and it's going to match that username with the item. We already understand how this logic works, so I don't need to explain it again. And now that we have the user, we can simply return it. So now we have created our own method, and we don't need to worry about whatever we have created inside it. We already know how it works, what it does, so maybe we can just use this instead. So now what we can do, we can create our variable. We can say let user equals find user. Now we are using our own method here, right? And um, now if I pass in a name, maybe king, right? And now if I run this code, it's returning me king. Now if I change this, I change the username and type Bilal in here, and I run the code, it's returning me Bilal, right? So we have learned actually two things in this video. The first thing we learned is how to work with find method. That is an array method that we can use to find a specific element in an array, and we know that the find method will terminate as soon as it finds the element. Okay, if it doesn't find the element, and let me put something that doesn't exist in the array, so let me type b, maybe find Steve, right? So if I type Steve, you'll see that it will result me undefined. So what undefined means, that it could not find the user in this array. So so what we learned, basically we learned how to use find method to find an element in an array, and we also learned to create our own custom method, um, which can be used to find a user, and we only need to provide it a username, right? So this is all for now. There is one thing, that the find method cannot search for more than one element. So let's say you're searching for, let's say a user has an interest, right? And let's say the interest is programming. So what we want to do is, we want to search for all the users that have a common interest, so that we can join them together, right? So this method is not going to do that. It's only going to find one element, and it's going to terminate. So in the next video part, we will learn to use another array method, which is going to just do that, like find multiple items from an array, right? So I guess this is all for this video part, and I will paste this code on my website. So if you find hard time writing it by yourself, you can just copy paste from there. Link will be in the description. So see you soon.